Good morning. It's a lovely day in North Carolina, and I wanted to tell you a story that used to embarrass me a great deal. I recently published a book on preparing for aging, but it's very focused on addressing physical issues, fixing misalignments and the like. However, there are many other aspects to aging, and one thing that's really nice to deal with is addressing shame, because shame can be fairly crippling. Anyway, I carried around a shameful memory for many years that related to something that occurred when I was 10. I was only 10 years old. I was a very shy kid, very, very shy, and I'd moved to a new school, and believe it or not, at the age of 10 I refused to wear underpants. And what happened was this: the class, none of whom I knew, I just met them all, were told to stand out in the playground, in the yard, separated by about 10 feet in rows. But I needed to go to the bathroom, but I was too shy to ask. It was a very hot day, unusual for England. And believe it or not, I couldn't resist the urge, and eventually I pooped my pants and it landed on the ground. Well, for a 10-year-old in a new school who's very shy, this was pretty bad, but they made it worse. They summoned an ambulance, and they put me in an ambulance in front of the entire school and sent me home. And you know, when I got home, my mom was there, and she couldn't understand why they would do that, just clean me up, and that was that. I was only 10. Well, you can imagine how I got ragged on. But more importantly, for the next, I guess, about 35 years, if ever I remembered that event, my hands would sweat, my throat would constrict, my chest would tighten, and I'd feel the symptoms of intense shame. So here I am in my mid-40s, still feeling shame about something that occurred when I was 10. But fortunately, I was doing some work on my psyche, trying to grow up a little more and cope with the world in a more healthy manner. And I read a book by a lady called Shakti Gawain on creative visualization. And as I'm an experimentalist, I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder what I could fix with creative visualization. And I thought, how about that thing that happened when I was 10? And of course, as soon as I thought of it, my hands started to sweat, and my throat started to constrict, and my chest would tighten. But I thought, let me see if I can fix it. So the objective was, according to the book, to go back and repair the damage. So this I did. I was living in America at the time, not in England where the event occurred. But I sat quietly and meditated until my mind was very calm. And then I imagined myself at home, 3 miles from the school, as an adult, and I decided as an adult in my imagination to go rescue my 10-year-old self before the event occurred. So I left the house, I walked up Cotton Brow, a steep hill, I walked over to the school, took a little while, and then I went into the playground. I found my younger self, who was in great distress. I took him by the hand and took him to the bathroom. I waited for him in the bathroom, and then I took him back to where he was, and he was much more relieved and happy by being relieved. And I left the playground and I walked towards home, and the imaginary daydream stopped. And would you believe it? I felt no shame after that. I could tell people about it. I told nobody. It was too shameful. And by magic, I cut that tape in my head. I was no longer suffering from shame about an event that occurred when I was 10, while I was in my mid-40s. In fact, I think if I hadn't repaired it by creative visualization, I would be unable to tell you the story now. So when it comes to preparing for aging, you don't have to just fix physical issues as are described in my book, but you can fix emotional and psychological problems also with just a little work. So I highly recommend you do that, as why would I want to take the shame of something that happened when I was 10 into my late old age? Just foolishness. So I highly recommend that book by Shakti Gawain on creative visualization. And with that, I wish you happy trails and enjoyable golden years. It just takes a little bit of work.